Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Oscar vs. Trevor here. I am joined by Thomas, and it is Trap Summer. Bumping that, bumping that. Okay. Got new M Night Shyamalan project, starring the incredible Josh Hartnett, and I think it is safe to say that after this film.
Yeah.
Um, and you also have his daughter, Suleika, playing Lady Raven in this. As well as Ariel Donahue, who is serviceable work as a child actor.
Yeah.
But I am Shyamalan pilled. Okay, so we have I've been watching through a lot of his work because we're going to be doing a tier list of Shyamalan films. So I watched a few before Trap, and I've been watching some after Trap. And he was somebody who I had previously dismissed. A couple years ago, we did Knock at the Cabin review where I
We did.
not particularly a fan. However, something clicked. I don't know if it was, before this or watching Trap or something, but I just get it now. And I think that Shyamalan, I really, really like this film. A lot more than I was expecting to. I just think that Shyamalan gets it as weird, like as simple as that is, for lack of better words. Like he just has it. He just gets film and understands film form to, I think, a very, very high level that I think a lot of people undersell. And I think that I myself undersold for a while. I just think he's a very, very intelligent filmmaker who knows exactly what he's doing with every film, and very confidently is able to assert his style over everything, even in, kind of subtle ways, I guess.
Fair enough. Yeah, I've seen all of M Night's work, and I think this is sort of in the middling range for me. It disappointed me a little bit because I was going in expecting it to be, sort of better than it ended up being for me. There are a lot of positives to draw from it, and I don't think it is a terrible film in any regard. I just kind of felt that it ended up having very similar to problems that I have with most of his films, where I think the first two acts are quite decent, and then it sort of derails in the third act and leaves everything a little bit sort of strange feeling. So those would be my overall thoughts, I
Sure.
guess. But I will also say, like Josh Hartnett, I completely agree. I think he.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into him later, but like,
Okay, why not now?
I mean, we can now.
Sure, why later then?
I was. Let's talk about Josh Hartnett now. Then I don't know.
Yeah,
Um, I think performs this like incredible high wire act in this film where he is playing this cross between, and spoilers for this film as well,
yeah,
but he's playing this cross between serial killer and cringy dad, and he hits a very surface level understanding of each of those in a very just like broad basic take on each of them. But he creates this like Venn diagram where he's pulling from either side and finding that center and finding the overlap between those two like archetypal like stereotypes of what those two characters are, the cringy dad and the serial killer. And he manages to keep his performance very broad and keep it uncomfortably on the surface level, while also doing something really distinct that I don't think I've ever really seen before, like pulling from those two sides but never going beneath the surface. I think it's really, really like impressive, just physical work. Just even like down to like, his body language. It's, yeah, I think incredible.
yeah. There's something very disconcerting about how familiar he kind of feels.
Yeah,
But as you say, that is crossing over both how he is very sort of just a standard deranged serial killer, but as you say,
yeah,
he is also this suburban father type figure. And I think he also exemplifies much of why this film works. This film works on its tone, like creating this very weird sense of horror and thriller and just menace, whilst also being really quite funny in parts. Like, it's not a film you're meant to take seriously at
yeah,
all.
and yeah,
But he exemplifies this in like drawing from both of their inspiration to create this character. And I think, as I say, I think the film really does ride on him and his charisma, and just on the fact that you enjoy watching him get into these scrapes, how he's going to get out of it. You enjoy watching him as the character, and that does come through with the performance. I don't think the narrative is really where this film crumbles for me, and I don't think it served such performance, such character in a way, and it served the tone that I don't think it earns the tone that it's trying to create. If you watched our Challenges review, you had sort of similar problems with Challenges, I feel, to my problems with this film, where I think, technically speaking, it's a very competently made film, and I think it achieves exactly what it wants to achieve. But I think I just didn't connect with the narrative really. I felt, not even in a cinema sins, like, oh, the plot hole here.
Which I will say, the people that are CinemaSins brained are going to hate this and pick it apart, because there are a plethora of plot holes, leaps in logic, narrative fallacies, everything.
But it's not even necessarily those. It more felt to me this was just a series of set pieces, some more interesting than others, and it didn't feel like it flowed very well as a film, going from one place to the next. It kind of felt, the third act especially felt very detached from what was really going on in the first two acts. I would have rather it sort of maintained the concert setting. I don't know where I would have taken it in just that concert setting, but once you sort of go out to the broader world, I don't think, because the concert setting, the arena, is such a claustrophobic atmosphere, it almost allows for this otherworldly, absurd tone, because it's like it's all in this carefully created world. When it goes out and it tries to expand itself, I think that's where it falls apart, because it doesn't quite earn the tone. There is a slight lack of cohesion there between what is being seen in narrative and how it's being presented, I feel.
So I guess we're pushed back on this, and I'm fully with you. I think that the tone is where the film thrives. I think that Shyamalan, he gets you there with the tone from like scene one, and I like, for me at least, like push down on the gas pedal and never let up. I think that the film is incredibly well paced. It flies by, and I think that you're just wrapped up in this like tonal burrito like the entire time. Like it doesn't, you aren't able to roll out of that fucker until the end. And like I think that it works leaving the arena, because I think that a lot of the tone is created through perspective in regards to space and atmosphere. And I think what immediately sets that tone is the constant use of like, POV, right? And where the camera is following around with Josh Hartnett's vision. And like, I think, it never tries to disguise really that he is the serial killer. Basically within the first 5 minutes that it's him. The second he pulls out the phone in the bathroom, right?
I really appreciated that, because obviously we've seen the trailers, we've all seen the marketing for this film, so like we know going in that is what we were expecting. So I'm glad that it didn't wait for the reveal.
Right. Like, the worst case scenario of this film is that like that's the big twist, right? Where it's like it's riding tension. It's trying to like ride tension the entire time of like is gonna be it's like fucking Air. And like how Air tried to build tension out of like, are they going to get the shoe done or not? Where it's like, obviously we know they're going to get the shoe done. There's no narrative tension there because we're watching the movie because the shoe is so famous. Like it would have been like that. Like, yes, obviously he's the serial killer. We all know this immediately. Who else is it going to be? So
I did think, by the way, going into it, knowing that M Night loves a twist, I genuinely felt, part of me believed that it was going to be the daughter that was revealed to be the serial killer, and the father was like looking out for him, just off the trailer, because of everyone knows that there's going to be a twist. There wasn't really in this one.
There wasn't, which I appreciate it.
Yeah, I did appreciate that aspect of it. But yeah, that was my theory going in. Proven wrong, gladly. No, gladly.
Yeah. But I think he crafts tension in a really smart way by immediately telling us and then immediately putting us in this really conflicted space, because it is just this very relatable, young child, you're going to go with your parent to see the concert, and obviously the daughter knows absolutely nothing about this. So then you're put in this weird, like, socially anxious place where, like, you do, like, it very, even if it is, quite cheesy, corny, whatever, like, you do build empathy quite easily for the daughter character in her relationship with her father, I think. And, her going to this concert, right? And I think that you it like viscerally gets to this feeling of like, I think like satirizing in a very dark way the ideas of parenthood and fatherhood specifically in like suburban America, while also having this lingering idea of, he is a fucking serial killer the entire time in the back of your mind. And it isn't quite like a sympathetic antagonist, because he is just fully the protagonist of the film.
Yeah.
Even though, he's a serial killer. But I think it's really smart in the way that it builds the film around him trying to craft a way to escape, and we stick with him the entire time, and we stick with his perspective and his point of view, to the point where it creates a lot of this, I think, connection, but also, subconsciously like this, want for him to be captured. I don't know, it puts the audience in a really interesting space, which is why I think that the third act does work when we do leave the arena, because then now, rather than it being all about, perspective directly from him, analyzing the environment around him, all of a sudden that is flipped. And then now we have, Lady Raven coming in. And for a lot of the third act, we're also, at the start of it, we're with Lady Raven and her having to like analyze this new surrounding. And I think the way that Shyamalan uses film language to make that immediately more uncomfortable, because at the concert, even though like he was stressed trying to get out, it always felt like he was in control. And there was a controlled sense to the form that Shyamalan is implementing that there isn't in the end until we're back with his perspective. And I think that, the end of the film, I do think works quite well, because we're back in this, controlled atmosphere with his house, and then that gets subverted because, the family gets out, all these types of things. And there's just subtle things with the rhythm of the editing, I think, for Shyamalan, I think is really important. And it's something that I've noticed as I've been working through his films. He has very specific tempos and rhythms to his editing, and to the way that his films are edited, that inform a lot about perspective with his characters, which, with how he likes to do psychological thrillers and everything like that, is very, very important to his films. So I don't know.
Definitely.
I think
Yeah.
the film works really well in that sense.
I can see that point. I would argue, though, that because we'd spent 2 acts setting up his perspective, to then lose that, to then go into characters we don't know much about at all, really, and we're resting the third act on them, I don't think it's quite as interesting as being in the mind of this this character, because that is where the key of the film was really working for me, was being in his perspective. And also, I don't know if it goes far enough in creating that sort of conscious subconscious divide. I think you are fairly unanimously in favor of this guy throughout, which maybe is weird coming out, but I don't know. I always felt like I never felt that feeling that you kind of wanted to.
I think that you're always for him, but it creates this like lingering dissonance almost, I think.
Yeah, whereas I guess I didn't quite feel that, and maybe that is when you take it out of his perspective, then the whole film didn't quite come together for me,
Sure.
because I kind of was wanting him to escape throughout,
Yeah.
and maybe that is a problem with me, or I think more likely the problem with the fact that the film establishes him in that way, where you kind of want to just be with him the entire time. He is the key part of this film, driving your engagement, and therefore when that is lost, I'm not sure it entirely comes together, unfortunately.
Sure. I could see that. I just think it's he informs the audience of like, and contextualizes environments in a really interesting way just through formal language purely. And I think this is a really fascinating exercise of that, in a way that, like, I don't know if I've seen anything really, really like. And I don't think it all works entirely, but I think it's bold and it's interesting. And I think this film is really quietly, like, very intelligent and bold. Like, I think it's one of the smartest dumb movies that I've seen in a while, where like the narrative is obviously very goofy and silly and stupid, and it's very camp. But I also think that Shyamalan is hyper aware of that, and I think he very much understands exactly what this film is, and uses that almost as a disarmament of the audience to subvert, I think, a lot thematically. And I do think it's a really fascinating, as I said, like darkly satirical exploration of parenthood in a lot of ways.
Yeah, see, I didn't get that from this film. For me, the film wasn't like it. I think M. Night knows the film is dumb. I think he's perfectly capable of being self-aware, and I think the film presents itself as very self-aware in that regard. But I don't think it's to subvert anything or disarm the audience's expectation. I don't think he's doing that for that purpose. I think he was just creating this fairly fun sort of throwaway kind of film, and I think. So I just didn't get that deeper layer that I think you got from the third act, because I think the third act is where the meaning would sort of come together, and these strings that he's been pulling throughout would sort of create union on them. But I didn't feel that personally. I didn't get this deeper layer. I didn't get any thematic exploration from this, and that's fine. I wasn't expecting that going in, but therefore when the third act then suddenly flips and it feels like it becomes almost a different film, I felt I lost the dumb fun that I was having and was a bit turned off by it. So, yeah.
No, I get that, and I just I don't know. I can see the third act being more empty, I guess, in that way. I think that I was way more along for the ride, I think, and it's something where we've talked about, like, we view films in different ways, because you very much come at it from the perspective of a writer, and I very much come at it from a more directorial focused perspective. And I think that this is one of Shyamalan's best directed works. Like, I don't think that this film really cares all too much about its narrative. And I think it is really focused on, like, I think it is, in a lot of ways, it is just a sequence of set pieces. And it is, in a lot of ways, an excuse for Shyamalan to show off in his ability to create tension and atmosphere. And, like, the narrative does, in a lot of ways, just serve as a way to get from set piece to set piece and get from interaction to interaction. But I think within those interactions and within a lot of that, I think it really subtly builds this very, like, thematically interesting yet, like, flat character, which I think is, like, I don't know, it's fascinating to have a protagonist of a film like this, and again reach into both of those very standard archetypes and just kind of float on the top of them rather than going underneath. And I think that in and of itself is doing something interesting with how it explores those two archetypes.
But which is why I was then put off by the fact his mother suddenly becomes relevant. And it tries to then sort of go, oh, we're digging a bit deeper into his psychology. I don't know why those
and I do think that final bit doesn't work for me.
I don't know why those elements were necessary, and I don't know why I don't know why leaving the concert was a necessary thing. I think you just, because as you say, this film is built as a vehicle for M. Night to just show off his set pieces, and I'd rather it just continue to be that throughout. I think that was where he was in his element with this film, and it got a bit lost towards the end. Because a lot of those elements are really great. Yeah.
I do think leaving the concert is important for us to understand the contextualization of atmosphere and space and how that varies. Because I guess see him in a different environment, I think, is what makes the first part work so well.
Yeah, but I guess because if we're saying he doesn't care about narrative, which is fair enough, I would agree with that point. He doesn't really seem that bothered by that. I didn't get the thematic, the deeper level to it. I just don't think it exists, really. I think it. Then what is the point of that? He doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about that. What does he care about? He cares about creating this atmosphere and creating that tone. And I think you get that for the first two acts, but then you lose it. And therefore, that was the only thing he was building, really. He was building this.
I feel like it works through the character work. I guess I think a lot of it is built through character, not necessarily through narrative. And I think
but then you lose the character. You lose your.
I don't think you do. I think that leaving him recontextualizes what we've done with the character work, not loses it.
I don't get that at all. I don't get his connection with his family. I don't think showing me his family life did anything to change my
I think it's less so
opinion
about the
on the
family as
character, or
characters, but it's treating like the family almost as like an environmental shift, I guess, in an atmospheric shift. Like again, I think
yeah,
that
but
the
I
family
think
in a lot of ways are just
I got
vehicles,
that through the relationship with the daughter, which was already
but it's
established and
then
already agreed was all
incorporating
done.
Lady Raven into it, and then we're going along with her. Like it's I think it's the drawing of the contrast there is what I think. I don't know. I think that works.
Yeah, but I don't
And
know. I kind of felt like I'd already seen that stuff, and every
that's
sort of element that gets introduced, I feel is just another element that like it doesn't take me on a ride in the way I think this film wants you to.
sure, and for me,
I,
the ride worked. So, like,
yeah,
this was an amusement park ride, but it was an amusement park ride that I enjoyed a lot and got a lot out of and had fun with. Like,
yeah,
I was gripped from frame one to frame what 2 fucking million or however many ever
yeah.
frames there are. This like, um, so I don't know, and I really appreciated Shyamalan's direction, and we kind of talked about this a bit before, but for a performance like Hartnett's, and we talked about how Hartnett's performance does work so well,
Mm.
and it's so offbeat and it's so strange. And we've talked about this, Venn diagram of reaching into archetypes, all these types of things. Like that performance, to make that performance work, you have to match like the tone of what that performance is evoking lockstep with the film and with the formal language, and with how you're presenting that performance. And it's something where we talked about with Long Legs with Nicolas Cage's performance, how that didn't maybe entirely work. And I would agree, I still enjoyed Nicolas Cage's performance in a vacuum, but I don't think that the film really was able to match his energy in a way that made the performance work contextually within the film.
Yeah.
And I think that like Shyamalan isn't doing anything, over the top here, or anything when it comes to that. But I think it's really quietly brilliant direction to just make that performance work so seamlessly. Like
Well,
to the
yeah,
point
I
where
think
you
also,
never even
yeah.
question the validity of what Hartnett is doing. It just
No.
immediately works. And I think that takes ridiculous talent from Shyamalan to
And I
make that
don't
work.
even think it's just in the direction as well. I also think the dialogue of this film is really impressive. How you
Oh,
have
it's
fun
incredible.
delivering these very strange lines, but then they're countered by even stranger lines, and so it's
Like
just this
when he sees
this
the
weird
the
thing.
hole in the ladder, he's like, "Hey, do
Yeah,
you wanna go down the ladder to see backstage?" Like, it's
cool
because it's
costumes and things, and she's like, no.
right, because
You're
it's
like,
and again,
cool.
it's part of that performance where
Yeah,
it's reaching so directly, like, it's like, that scene in Oppenheimer
mm,
where, like, they have the little glass balls and the little things, whatever,
sure, yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah.
they're doing the demonstration. That you could remember it. You all saw
Yeah.
Oppenheimer, but like I'm just imagining like he has the jar with the glass balls for like cringy dad and the jar with the glass balls for serial killer, and it feels like he's just like grabbing fistfuls of balls from each one, and like for each line of delivery, the line delivery, not
Line
line of
delivery,
delivery.
yes.
But like that's one where it just like it feels like he's just reaching into both. Like you can read it in either way, and that's what makes those lines work so well. Like yes, if you want to look at it on the surface level and not in context, it's a really dumb awkward line that no human would ever say, but that's
But it's
the
not trying to
point.
be that. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I was really surprised that the trailer stuff, it really wasn't like cut very much. Like the awkward
yeah,
deliveries and awkward lines in the trailer are just in the film, like precisely as they're presented there. So I was really happy about that, just to
yeah.
see
I mean
these
it's
moments.
like
Because yeah,
Lynch.
as I
So
say,
Lynch will over stylize dialogue.
there are
Shyamalan does the same thing.
genuinely very funny moments. I felt a lot of that did come through the dialogue and the performance. But yeah, as you say, it was matched by, I think, very good directing. I did appreciate that it wasn't that everything in the world was overly stylized, but everything sort of aesthetics wise and all of that kind of thing wasn't. And I do appreciate the way that was kind of presented in conjunction with this concert that was very sort of deliberately cheesy,
Yeah,
deliberately
yeah, yeah.
inauthentic in many ways. But just everyone in the world, I think that is the perfect metaphor of the film. Everyone in the world treats this concert as like the most important thing in the world, and this, perfectly natural thing. When we're looking at it as an audience, going, "What the fuck are these people doing?" Like,
Yeah, yeah.
but and we are looking at it in that time, in that moment, in the perspective of Josh Hartnett, when they're showing the camera, like
Right.
he's looking around, going, "What the hell is going on?" And you kind of feel the same way, and it's
Again,
about
it
creating
creates
that
this
connection with
really
him. So
strange dissonance of anxiety between the audience and the film, to where you
yeah,
do feel anxious along with him, but then also you have an understanding almost immediately that he is the antagonist, he is the serial killer, but then also you feel for him as a parent. Like I think it's really complex in the way that it interacts with the audience.
There are lots of great moments in it, and I don't want to come across as I didn't like the film, because I did still find a lot to enjoy out of it. I guess I just would have rather it went further with that and we didn't lose track of what we were doing. It felt to me, to use the ball analogy, it felt like he was grabbing fistfuls and then he just started grabbing like one or two at a time, and it suddenly just sort of shifted and he was like, oh, I now want to dig down into these elements. I'm like, no, just give me the fun, give me the dumb fun. And so that was kind of my
yeah. And again, I think that the very end with the stuff with the mom, I think it feels a bit forced. And I think that I think that thematically the stuff outside the concert does work. I think that it maybe went on for 5 to 10 minutes too long by the end, when I said, like, I think that you feel this rapid pacing throughout and it does grip you throughout, but then I think you get done with it. It's like, maybe like we didn't need, like, I know there was a couple elements that felt like it was maybe building to something a bit extra that in hindsight are just a bit redundant. But when you look in the full context, like when you're on the ride, it doesn't feel that way, I guess.
Yeah, because I guess that's the other thing as well. I didn't really feel a increase in tension throughout the film. I kind of felt it developed it immediately. Like, okay, he's stuck in this concert. There's police outside. How is he going to escape? And then it's kind of just like, maybe he's going to escape this way. Maybe he's going to escape this. I didn't feel the increasing tension that I think would have been necessary for this film to really sort of.
That's fair. And again, that's just
kept the same throughout.
Going to be in, like, each person's going to feel that in a different way.
For sure.
And yeah, I think happened to feel it a bit more, which I do think it is kind of similar to how we felt about Challengers, but in the
exactly, yeah.
To where you were more positive on that one than me. So, but yes, I think that's it for our thoughts on Trap. Yeah, I'm good. What are you feeling for a rating?
I would be looking at probably a weak 6, but a 6 nonetheless. I would, if you're looking at his recent output, I'd go old this and then Knock at the Cabin. So it's sort of in and around that region, though. It's no, it's not his worst film by any stretch of the imagination. It's kind of just another middling M Night Shyamalan film. And to be honest, I'm happy for him to keep making them, because I'll always look forward to them. I'll always find something to enjoy in my film.
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just like. Shyamalan's a filmmaker, even though there are films of his that I think are really, really, really bad still, even though I am on my Shyamalan build right now. Like, he's made some stinkers. But I don't know. I'm going to give this, like, strong 7 to a light 8. Like, week 8, I think.
Which one, though? You got to pick one.
I'll throw it an 8. I had a lot of fun with this. Way more fun than I was expecting to. And I was like, it isn't the type of fun where I just felt like it was a bit hollow afterwards. Like I did feel like I was able to, read something out of it and get something out of it and appreciate more elements beyond just the ride. Like it felt like, I don't know, like in the same way that like, The Fugitive, like that film where it like, I don't think it's.
I also don't love The Fugitive, though, to be honest.
Right, and The Fugitive is a film that I just have a lot of fun with, like, which I know, for people, longtime viewers of the channel, feels very contrary to a lot of my takes and taste and whatever. But like, it's just the type of film where it knows exactly what it is. Like, I am all for just dumb fun movies if they understand that they're dumb fun. That's why I think that Fast and Furious is one of like the greatest modern series of films. Like, I think Fast and Furious are incredible. Like you can love Fast and Furious and also love Chantal Akerman. Like, it's
I don't think Fast and Furious do know they're dumb fun.
I love the Fast and Furious movies. Like, Fast 9 is one of the best like action films of all time. But I will stand on that. But anyways, like I know I'm for dumb fun if the film understands that it is dumb fun and just wants to commit fully to being that. And I think this is it. Like I thought it was great. So,
but I think it commits to it for a decent amount of time, but I don't think it goes far enough. And also with these kind of dumb fun films, they're never going to be something that really, really connects with me. Like, I'll enjoy them, but I did feel this one was kind of hollow, I guess would be the would be the
Sure.
major kind of. I
Which I think
didn't
is fair.
think it.
Like,
I
I
didn't think
definitely
it had that
understand
issue there.
people's departure
So
with the third act. Like,
yeah,
I think it makes
yeah.
sense. But anyways, yeah, I surprised myself with this one, and I am very excited for our Shyamalan tier list.
Oh, for sure,
It's
for
gonna be a
sure.
lot of fun.
The
But
interesting takes.
until then, thank you everybody for watching. And we'll have review. I don't know what the fuck we're reviewing next.
I don't know.
We'll review
Alien
something
Romulus.
soon. Until then, thank you
Could be.
everybody for watching. Stay safe and goodbye.